Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. The big question that I get from everyone, from friends, from family, from viewers, from listeners is, should we be nervous about the election coming up between President Trump and Kamala Harris? Should we be nervous? Can we win? This is the question I get. And I tell people there's a very different distinction between being nervous and being concerned. Yes, we should be concerned. The reason why I don't like to use the term nervous is because nervous portrays some kind of fear. I am in firm belief that President Trump can win this election and will win this election if we do the right thing. And when I say we, that means you and me and all of Stinchfield's army out there and all of President Trump's supporters do the right thing to get him elected. Yes, we will win. Can Kamala Harris win? You better believe she can win. She has some very powerful forces in her corner. She's raising lots of money. She's got the media in her corner. There is no doubt in my mind that Kamala Harris can win. But there are some reasons why I want you to rest a little easy as you go, what? Fight, 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 as President Trump says, okay? We can do this, all right? And I want to make this very clear. The Democrats, are more concerned about this election than we are. Now, make no mistake, we're very concerned, but they're more concerned. I would rather be a Republican today than a Democrat running President Trump against Kamala Harris. I'd rather be on our spot than theirs. Hard to see that when you're looking at it as we see the media just blowing everything up and Kamala Harris surging in the polls and all of these things. But I've got some poll numbers that I want to go through to show you that we're in a great spot. And again, if we do things right, we're going to be okay. GrantStinchfield.com is the website, Stinchfield1776. Don't forget, my friends over at the Wellness Company, twc.health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. Folks, if you do not have prescription medications as part of your emergency preparedness plan, you are doing your family a disservice. Please visit the Wellness Company, twc.health/Grant. Get these kits, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, all kinds of antiparasitics, antivirals, and antibiotics in these kits. This is what's going to keep you and your family safe. twc.health/Grant. Use promo code GRANT. All right, let's dive in now to this idea. How do we win? Why we should be concerned, but what is the path to victory? And we've got Charlie Kirk today as well to talk about this. So with that, folks, let's get the party started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, so it's the biggest question I get by far. I mean, I said it, but it is. Grant, are you nervous? Should we be nervous? How are you feeling? I feel good. And here's one thing. I have never felt so good before. I need to put the caveat on this. The best I ever felt was when President Trump was running against Joe Biden, and Joe Biden was a disaster. And days after the debate, I said, you know what? This is the guy we need to run against. This is a slam dunk. That's the best I've ever felt. The second best I've ever felt is right now running against Kamala Harris. She has the Harris honeymoon. There's no doubt about it. She's now President Trump. When you take the average of the major polls, he was up by about 5, 6, maybe 7 points at one point. Now he's only up nationally by 1 point. But I will say this. When you look at all of the swing state polls, President Trump is up anywhere from 6 points to 1 point, and he's only down in 2 in Virginia and Wisconsin, and he's only down by a very little bit. So I'll go through some of these polls here in a little bit, but I want to make this very clear. Kamala Harris is a disaster, okay? She hides behind a teleprompter, and her team will hide her behind a teleprompter because she cannot go off the cuff. There is no way Kamala Harris is going to get from now until Election Day without being exposed. In fact, it's already starting to happen as she's asked questions. Her team will try to hide her. She hasn't done a real interview in almost 2 weeks now. She hasn't sat down and done an interview. That's going to be a problem for her. You probably want to know, what do you do to talk to your friends and family? Maybe you have moderates, independents, maybe liberals who are now excited about the prospect of Kamala Harris, the first black woman or Indian woman or whatever. I would tell you this, don't focus on her race. This has nothing to do with her race. The left will make it about her race. The more we make it about her race, the more the left wins on this. It's not about her race. This is about policy. It's about policy and personality. Now, we know President Trump's personality. I personally love it, okay? But if you focus on policy and you tie what I would dub now Kamalanomics, okay? Kamalanomics are the same thing as Bidenomics. You've got to make it clear to everyone that Kamala Harris is the same person as Joe Biden and maybe quite possibly even more radical than Joe Biden at the core. Kamala Harris is a radical, and all you have to do is go through her past positions. Now, she is backtracking away from all of these positions. What you do when you go talk to your friends and family, you make sure you let them know she was a defund the police person. She was an anti-fracking person. So if you live in Pennsylvania, for instance, it costs you $1,200 more a year to fill up your F-150 pickup truck than it did when President Trump was in office. These kinds of things are what you can use. Ohio is nearly the same number. These are the things you can use when you're debating this. Kamala Harris wants to ban fracking, okay? This, folks, is some of the silly and stupid things she says. Young people will be flocking to Kamala Harris, but I would remind them of this.
Age is more than a chronological fact. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant.
All right, so those kind of comments are not really great when you're running on the main stage. Now, you could go back to one of my radio shows or podcasts and probably find worse comments than that. But that, folks, is when she's vice president of the United States. So you can't be saying and calling the American public stupid. I can say there's a portion of the American public that's stupid, but she can't. She's running for president of the United States. These are the kinds of things you have to point out. Now, I'm going to go through some of her words in just a minute before we get to Charlie Kirk. But remember, we need to be concerned because Kamala Harris has the media on her side. She will be able to lie to the American public. And don't forget, she was involved in the biggest cover-up of all time, and that was the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental capacity. She was a big player in that cover-up. So she's a liar. But here's what she does have. She has a media that's going to cover for her lies. She has these fact-check groups that will not fact-check her and issue false fact checks for President Trump or fact-check ridiculous things just to call attention to the ridiculous things to make Republicans look bad. So she's got the fact-checking group on her side. She's got the media on her side. She's got the ability to lie on her side. We know that the Democrats are going to cheat in many of these big cities in these swing states. So she's got the fraud on her side. Here's what she doesn't have on her side. She doesn't have us on her side. She doesn't have, she can have social media on her side if they start to block all of this kind of stuff, podcasts like this. But we still have it, and we have our voices, and we have to take this out far and wide to the people. So now we're learning that she is going to debate President Trump. This was at a recent rally. Well, look.
I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say it to my face.
All right, so That, again, is a lie, and this is why I play it. President Trump hadn't agreed to a debate with her only because she wasn't the nominee. She still really isn't. Presumptive now, albeit. But he hadn't denied it. He just said, hey, we have to figure out a date. Then she says, if you're going to say it to my face. President Trump's not going to have any problems saying things to Kamala Harris's face. She's also on a teleprompter here. So all of this one little clip you just watched, rolls Kamala Harris into one. She's willing to lie to the American people. She's willing to do it with a smile. She's got to use a teleprompter to do it effectively. And the mainstream media will push this out to everyone and not call out the falsities in all of this. So I'm going to go through some of the polls here. But before I do that, I want to tell you about a new sponsor of ours. And I'll tell you what, I am so excited to tell you about Energized Health. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. This is about losing fat. It is about reversing your ailments. It is about energizing every part of your life through something they call cellular hydration. And I won't get into that, but I want you to go to the website, EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. I started this program. There's a coaching component to it. It's about life. It's multifaceted approach to mind, spirit, and body. Guys, I've lost close to 9 pounds now after 7 or 8 days on this program. 9 pounds. Am I looking better? Tell me. Am I getting more definition? I think so. I feel better. And part of this program of the hydration part, cellular hydration, I feel the difference in my body like you would not believe. And again, I was already in decent shape. Now, if you're way overweight, my coach went from 800 pounds to 200 pounds. So what I'm telling you is this program is for everybody. You're like me, pretty good shape, but need to tone it up. Bing, bang, boom, a week, I'm at it. You're way overweight, and you got to make sure you save your life because God gives you one body, and you better take care of it. This program's for you, too. The motivation is great. The people behind it are great. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. Go to the website today, EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. I promise you, folks, you are not going to regret it. It's a very, very cool program. All right, so as we continue, I told you I'll go through some of these polls. Nationally, President Trump is up basically 1 point when you take, I think it's an average of almost 90 different polls. 97 polls, the Hill has taken an average of, and President Trump is up by 1 point. But the national polls don't mean anything. It just gives you an idea of where the country is. What means something are the swing states. Arizona, President Trump is up 49-43 in Arizona. That's huge, folks, all right? And that should bode well for Kari Lake, who's running for the United States Senate in that state as well, to ride the coattails of President Trump. So Arizona up 49-43. And guess what? I don't even include Ohio anymore on the swing states. Ohio's going to go to President Trump. Florida's going to go to President Trump. These things are going to make it very difficult for Kamala Harris to win. But if she takes the other swing states, she can win. And they're close. Now, Georgia, 48-45. That's good for President Trump. Georgia has turned purple. It used to be a reliable red state. Not so much. Michigan, Trump is down a point, 47-48. Kamala Harris is winning Michigan. But I think what President Trump is doing with the auto workers, you're going to see people who are not going to admit they're going to vote for President Trump to in public or a pollster. And you're going to have the 2016 effect in Michigan. And they're going to go to the polls and vote for him. Nevada, President Trump is up 47-44. Nevada, folks. I mean, Republicans have not been winning the state in a long time, and it's looking good there. Pennsylvania, we're up 2 points. I had given up on Pennsylvania a long time ago. But now President Trump is up 2 points there. Why? I think they finally have been awakened to the fact that the war on coal is very, very real, and it cannot be tolerated. And so these people who live in Western Pennsylvania, and then I think you see the inner cities of places like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia that are dealing with crime, different issues from Western Pennsylvania, dealing with the coal mines all being shut down, and the inner city crime in Eastern Pennsylvania, like Philadelphia. They're saying we need help. Democrat policies have ruined us. Now, whose policies are those? Those are Kamala Harris's policies. So again, folks, when you talk to people about this, Kamala Harris is the same as Joe Biden. They're Kamalanomics. Bidenomics, Kamalanomics. It is interchangeable. You've got to spread this word. When they talk about increasing the minimum wage to record numbers where people cannot afford, business owners cannot afford to pay people, what do? They autonomize their business. Just go to California and look at what they've done. 20,000 fast food jobs gone, and there's now kiosks. You press a button because they raise the minimum wage and business owners fire people. These kinds of policies are killing America. The government spending. Why do we think inflation is so high? Government spending is one part of that. Of course, fracking, drilling is another part that we've waged war, the Democrats have, on the oil business in this country. And we're no longer self-sufficient when it comes to that. Spread this word. Virginia, President Trump is down 42 to 45. And in Wisconsin, he's down 47 to 48. I wouldn't really expect Virginia to be one. I think it is a possibility. I do expect Wisconsin to be an even better possibility of winning. So there's a real chance that President Trump will run the table on these. There's not a chance that Kamala Harris runs the table. And once you take Ohio out of play, once you've got Florida out of play, Kamala Harris has to do really, really well in all of these swing states, and I just don't see it. She's moved up a little bit in the polls, but that's to be expected once she announced this campaign. But again, folks, the concern comes because the media is very powerful. You see what they've done in just a few days. They've turned her into some kind of smart savant-like person when we know she's not. But this is the media's power, and this is most certainly what they are capable of doing. That to me is trouble. So this is Kamala Harris when you get her off the cuff. This is her coconut tree comment.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context.
Coconut tree? What is she talking about, a coconut tree? I think she may have fallen out of the coconut tree, banged her head on a couple of coconuts that had already fallen out, and then more coconuts fell on her head, because that, honestly, folks, is the ding-dong, ding-bat that Kamala Harris really is. What does she mean by a coconut tree? Now, did you fall off the banana boat? Wasn't that a saying? Or did you fall off the something wagon? I don't know. But Kamala Harris saying falling out of a coconut tree. This has gone crazy on social media, but it doesn't make any sense. So here's what we need to do. We need to try to get the mainstream media to start asking her questions. They won't, though. They're going to protect her, which is, hence again, my concern about this race. All right? Concern. But it all comes down to this. She is running away from her policies. She's running as fast as she can from them. My crew over at Real America's Voice put this together. It's pretty darn good, by the way. This is Kamala Harris's old positions that she's now apparently doesn't believe in anymore. Bullcorn.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. There's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
What would you do about the millions of specifically assault weapons that are already in circulation.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
You support the Medicare for All bill. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
Eliminate private insurance, move on. The buyback program, folks, is a gun confiscation scheme, okay? There is no doubt about that. And you get Democrats in the middle of America. They like their guns, too. Don't let the media tell you that all Democrats are anti-gun. They're not. Working class Americans in these middle states, especially now in cities where you have to keep your family safe, they want the ability for firearms ownership. And she's talking about, quote, buyback programs, which is nothing but confiscation. And this Medicare for All, I want you to think back to Obamacare. Before Obamacare, all right, my son was born. I had corporate insurance through NBC. Yes, back when I worked for the devil of a company called NBC. There was a problem with the insurance covering my son's birth. Now, we know how expensive it is. They called me. They said, you need to go down to the billing office. Insurance isn't covering all of it, of the birth of my son. And he had some issues. There was a C-section. He had to be under the lights. He had jaundice, all these things going on. So you know it was expensive. Well, I go down there, and this is pre-Obamacare. They said, there's a problem with the insurance. Mr. Stinchfield, you owe $250. It isn't covered here. I'm like, $250? Here's my credit card. Take it. I'm grateful. That's the cheapest thing I ever had to do is pay for my son's birth, $250. That's today. If you want to have a child under Obamacare, it could cost you $5,000 to $10,000. Okay. So when you talk about Jake Tapper saying, well, what about the people? If they like their insurance, can't they keep it? He was the one pushing Obamacare. He's the one that pushed this nonsense on us, where 90% of the country lost insurance that they loved just so the 10% that was uninsured could be made happy. That makes no sense. She wants to do the same thing again, only make it worse. Why is the government in the game of health insurance? The government sneezes, everybody gets COVID. That's how bad it is. You got to get government out of the way. Government's the reason why healthcare costs are so expensive. She talked about banning fracking here. I mean, I'll play it one more time.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Bingo. Banning fracking. What do you think is going to happen? Gas prices go up. They did.
Question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Starting from scratch with ICE. There's nothing wrong with ICE. There's nothing wrong with our Border Patrol. Let them do their jobs. Her starting from scratch means dismantle the agency, do not rebuild it, open the borders up, get all these illegal aliens in, they will vote forever, and you'll never win another election again. This is what we're up against here. Don't think anything less of this. So these are the things that Kamala Harris is talking about. These are the things you need to tell your friends and family about. Nicely. But this is how you win. Okay? Before I get to Charlie Kirk, yes, the great Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA, I want to tell you folks about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant is where I want you to go. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. I'm so happy I do. You got the executives there, the people that work for Patriot Mobile, all great Americans. They take such flack, such heat. They sacrifice business. Why? Because they call themselves America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. That's the kind of company I want to be with. It is the company I'm with. You can pick between the three networks, so you can keep your phone on the network that's best in your city or town, but you don't have to pay these woke cell phone companies that are engaging in woke policies in their own companies that are funding the woke left, like Planned Parenthood and Mothers Against Firearms and all these other organizations. Go with Patriot Mobile. It's doing the exact opposite. They're funding groups that we love, pro-gun groups. They fight for free speech. They back our veterans and our first responders. This is why I go there. Oh, and not to mention, I have the best thing going yet. It's an iPhone. One phone, 2 lines, 2 different networks. The Patriot One plan. Ask them about it. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Free month service if you sign up today using promo code Grant, or just call them at 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT, and you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right, with that, I want to bring in Charlie Kirk. Now, I did this interview over at Real America's Voice. He has some ideas about messaging that I want you to listen very close to. It is very important that we listen to him, and he's got some ideas for President Trump as well about how to move this campaign through the process so we win. So with that, here is Charlie Kirk.
Grant, you're a great American. Thanks, man. Excited to be here.
Well, I feel the same way about you, buddy. How should we be messaging her right now? Because, boy, the media is doing a hell of a job covering it all up.
Yeah, I think we're figuring this out on the fly. Understand that we are running up against Biden for the last year and a half, or at least the last 9 months as the campaign really started to heat up. First and foremost, we must go through that she is fake. Her entire life, she has failed upwards, and that she has pretended to be somebody that she is not. She is inauthentic. She is not who she says she is. And I think this is a very important thing because voters say they want authenticity in their candidate. I think that is one of the reasons why President Trump does so well and why people resonate with President Trump. And so that's number one. Number two is that she's unbelievably radical, as rated the most radical U.S. senator out of 100 senators in the last couple of years. As you, that beautiful montage you put, I haven't even heard some of that as far as the getting rid of private insurance. That's pretty remarkable. Gun buybacks is another name or another word for gun confiscation. And not to mention the Green New Scam and banning fracking. And then finally, that she is a cruel person. She does not care about the suffering of everyday Americans. And so fake, radical, and cruel. I will say even further, though, Grant, and this is what's really important, is that we must not allow the media to define the terms of how we're going to run this race. We win on policy, but understand we're also running up against a person. People vote for people. And, you know, some people say, oh, just keep it all about policy. But hold on, her track record as an individual is unbelievably flawed. She did not win the Democrat primary. She's not a popular candidate. The more that the American people actually hear about her and hear from her, the lower her numbers are going to go. They have created this mirage campaign, a synthetic type operation that makes it seem that Kamala Harris has all this momentum. That also is fake. And so we're still trying to get our sea legs here, Grant. A lot of Americans are very fatigued right now. I know our movement has failed to really try to, not failed, I'd say that we're struggling to get out of the gate right now because it's just been a very tumultuous summer from Trump getting shot to the RNC to Biden dropping out. So that's how I would go against Kamala Harris right now.
So I got fake, radical, and cruel, which I think is really, she is all three of those things. I would add to fake, and this really is maybe a subcategory, is that she's a liar. And she was maybe, if not the orchestrator, one of the lead culprits in the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental capacity. I mean, we were lied to about that, not to mention all the other policy positions that she's lied to us about. But that, too, needs to be called out as her ability to lie to the American people.
Well, and this is a very important point. She's actively in charge of the federal government right now. She might not actually be president, but do you see yesterday where they welcome the hostages home, where Joe Biden starts to go on the hostages plane, and she doesn't even stop him? He's not running the country, so she's second in charge. So every failure needs to be on her shoulders. She is the border czar. She is overseeing right now an economic collapse and really bad economic news. This is her country that she is now observing. And she has to run it as an incumbent. If you notice, Grant, all of her advertisements, all of her speeches, she speaks like she's an outsider. She speaks as if she's some sort of challenger to the system. No, Kamala, you're the current vice president. So right now, Iran is about to counterattack against Israel. What are you going to do about that? Right now, there are killing fields happening in Ukraine. What are you doing about that? What are you doing right now to fix the American economy? The southern border is relentlessly being invaded. What are you doing about that? And so she is being given a free pass by this repulsive Democrat super PAC that is called the American media. Yeah. I think we're going to start to figure out the best way to criticize her. And I think we're going to have a much better couple weeks coming up.
Well, if you force her into answering questions about policy, you also reveal the person, right? Because off a teleprompter, she can read a teleprompter, I'll give her that, but off a teleprompter, she's horrible. They're going to protect her. So I'd ask you this, I guess. I know we have all these other outlets, Real America's Voice, Turning Point, Breitbart, all the outlets that we have. We still don't have the mainstream media. How do we infiltrate the mainstream media? Is there a way for you and me and all the others to get into the mainstream media and get our message on those outlets?
The only way, and this is my advice both privately and publicly to President Trump, is he has to run a social media over-the-top campaign, and even more so than he ever has. And I don't mean just, the midnight tweets, which are great and fine, but he has to do more behind-the-scenes footage. For example, his next press conference, he should be at the driver's range with Kai, his granddaughter, and take questions from reporters. He should always have a grandkid around him, like at all times. They should assign some grandkid with him constantly. Answering questions from reporters, grandkid on his lap. About to go in the rally, grandkid comes up on stage, right? He is the family candidate, and they are not. Secondly, we need to try to tell the story better of President Trump's compassion and his heart for the forgotten men and women of this country. So no, the media is completely in the bag. They're going to ignore Trump largely. But however, they can't ignore his 88 million Twitter followers. He should use Twitter again. They cannot ignore his nearly 40 million Instagram followers. He needs to use Instagram all the day, Instagram stories, use TikTok more, and use more funny behind-the-scenes content. The guy is the most talented candidate we've ever seen as far as going viral, off the cuff. He's hilarious. He's charismatic. And I think that the whole Kamala Harris, they're trying to hide from the American people. Donald Trump, we need to paint in this way using the over-the-top social media platforms that made Donald Trump successful in 2016 and I think can win in 2024.
Well, I know there are plenty of people on the Trump team that watch your show. I know there are people on the Trump team that watch this show. I hope they take that advice because it makes a lot of sense. And social media today right now is so powerful. Most people are getting their news from social media, whether that's sadly or great, depending on, I guess, who you're getting it from. But great stuff. Charlie Kirk, as always, it's great having you on the program tonight. Thank you.
You're a great American. Keep fighting, Grant. Thanks.
Well, I feel the same way about Charlie Kirk. Really, what he has done with Turning Point USA has been nothing short of amazing. I mean, changing the hearts and minds of people one at a time on these college campuses across America. Our young people are the key to our future. If we lose them, we lose the country. Charlie Kirk knows that. I'll also say this. If we lose the White House this time around, we lose the country. We can't let that happen. So harness what Charlie just talked about. Harness what I have been talking about. And then let's go do it. It is up to us, folks. We have to change hearts and minds, too. President Trump can do all the rallies he can. But what if we change our hearts and mind at the water cooler at the office? What if we change our hearts and mind talking to somebody at the gym? What if we change our hearts and mind talking to a buddy at the golf course? It's up to us. So let's do it. It's Stinchfield's Army, baby. We can do whatever we want. That's how powerful we are. God bless every single one of you. All right. We will see you very, very soon. Tomorrow, right back here. GrantStinchfield.com is the website. GrantStinchfield.com. Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms. If you're watching this video, please hit the like button and then share. Also, make sure you're subscribed to both the audio podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and then on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and Twitter and all the places where we air this, so we continue to spread the message. Again, thank you so much for your support. Stinchfield's Army rolls, of course, because of all of you.